Okay, here we go with the second part. And I'm trying to set up the window capture because for some reason it's not working. Okay, here we go. Then we just run 8 minutes of the video and we made already an hour, which is great. There is a lot of things to say there.
But it quickly risks becoming a form of surveillance that we've never seen before.
I think this risk of misuse increases exponentially as soon as we move away from the domain of biomedical research and clinical intervention and we start using these technologies in the consumer space. Our brains are the last refuge of privacy, and if we lose control over this, then we risk exposing the most intimate layers of our mental life to external scrutiny, manipulation, or even exploitation.
These devices.
So yeah, remember this. This is commodification. So we take the human brain and then we use it to create products. And this is according with capitalism, good for the economy. Good for the economy. And then we it's a economic focus center system in which is about growing GDP, assuming that everything is a resource now. Humans are human, the Russian, the actor, the consumer, the economic actor is supposed to be rational, but the humans are irrational. So now, in the future, what we are seeing is that now humans are becoming resources, and the robots or the AI are becoming the rational actor, because precisely the system, the economic system, has been designed in that way and is creating that situation. Then it means that the human is not an economic human-centered system, but is a system in which slowly machines are gonna make a huge part of the economy. They're gonna be bots. Technically, nothing stopped me to create a bot in which I will pay a company that will keep the bot system running, and then this bot will be in charge to pay that system itself, but doing scams. And then the bot can create backup copies in case one of them is closed. The bot can create web pages to keep having revenue and pay whatever it needs to pay to keep the bot running in another, I don't know, data centers, GPU services, energy services, etc. So the bots, AI agents can create their own economy, and at some stage with the cryptocurrencies, there will be most of the economy run by AI than the humans. Also, if you want, this is one of the most important things. You have the Ricardo's formula of economics, in which you need to have land, capital, technology, and labor. Yeah. So labor gonna start to diminish as humans are not needed. Yeah, because technically AI can be do anything that a human can do, including AI. And AI can learn how to do AI, and that's where we are heading. So then AI systems technically are able to do everything, especially economic-wise, better, stronger, faster, including consumption. So because if there are AI boats running an economy in which they can earn money, they can create, I don't know, web pages, services for other bots, services for humans, and they are able to pay themselves what they require to consume more, then human life will be around creating the energy for that economy, creating the computer power for that economy, and creating the technology, whatever is needed for that economy to continue to develop. And then labor, as humans need it, gonna be diminished because slowly they will be for efficiency purposes of this economic system. Then humans will be pushed out the system every single time, more in sideways. But where are the humans pushed? The humans are becoming resources, and this is what is happening to me. I'm not treated as a human anymore, but as a resource. Yeah, like a natural resource, and this goes well with the ideology of the sheep, control, domination. You know, it's like a kind of subhuman. It's not human anymore. It's the ideology of the evaluation of humanity, replacing what is alive for what is not alive, and giving birth to something that creates more than humans, etc. So then labor gonna diminish because it's not needed. Land becomes more productive, and at some stage we're gonna go to the space in which land is not necessarily anymore. And capital, which is the same thing as the machines. But going back to land, we can create skyscrapers. Well, we can create buildings, big buildings. So land is not as necessary as before because land can be used in a more productive way. So land tend to be not necessarily, and in the future, since let's say people like me, when I also try to create a decentralized corporation, I start to receive attacks, Havana syndrome, really strong headaches and all that. So, and I start to not be able to concentrate in uni because of the attacks, etc. After finish a bachelor, in which even experiencing the attacks, I was able to push it through, but definitely they reached the point in which I was not allowed to do much. Then means that people is not allowed to use. People using this technology is disturbing everything related with human relationships, and they think that they can keep the old system when this new kind of technology changes every single field. So they want to change the biological field. They want to change every single aspect of technology, science, human nature, but they don't want the economic system to change. That's stupid because it's gonna change. I mean, capitalism cannot survive in the long run. Yeah, because machines gonna do something more efficient in which there will be no waste at all, and it means that there is not a space for human life. As part of the enjoyment to be a human is to know how to waste time, and to waste time with those who we love. And it's important. One of the most important things for humans is to know how to waste our time. Yeah, because that's part of being human. This idea of being overproductive is not right. Okay, then we got technology that is always advancing, labor that is disappearing, land that is becoming every time more efficient, and we're gonna need less land, and capital. Capital is technically the machines, or that is there for the production, and the capital is also increasing. Yeah, the capital are the machines, the capital as resources are the humans. Oh, humans are becoming resources. So as labor diminish, capital also increases because now humans are becoming a resource in the capitalist economic system. Okay, let's keep going.
Are not marketed to treat medical conditions. They're marketed as wellness devices. And so the rules and regulations, in my understanding, apply differently. However, at the same time, they are collecting medical grade data. There are still gaps and things where patient and consumer data may be at risk of not being protected.
Will advertisers eventually start interpreting your brainwaves to sell you more junk? Will your boss slap you with a warning if you're not fully focused all day? Experts like Nita Farahani warn we're a hop away from what she calls brain transparency becoming the norm.
You glance at the program running in the background on your computer screen and notice a now familiar sight that appears whenever you're overloaded with pleasure. Your theta brainwave activity decreasing in the temporal regions of your brain. Your mind starts to wander to the new colleague on your team, whom you know you shouldn't be daydreaming about, given the policy against intra-office romance. But you can't help fantasizing just a little. But then you start to worry that your boss will notice your amorous feelings when she checks your brain activity and shift your attention back to the present.
That is a thought police, and that's technically what's happening to me. It's a thought police. Guys, we have a thought police here, and no one is talking about that, which is one of the most important things that is happening in humanity at the moment. But then people say, there is a war going on, and that's more important than humanity, or there is a war, and simply everyone has to collaborate for the war, and I'm like, okay, let's collaborate. Hey, can I be free? Can I help in my No, you are a slave. You had been neuroattacked. Sorry. And that's the point. Okay. One way to collaborate is to think, okay, first rule of war is try to avoid a war because there is not need for a fucking war. Then people who is trying to work in avoiding wars, like people doing studies on neutrality and all that stuff, and they should be allowed to do so. Yeah, don't fucking attack them. They might come up with a solution that will stop that stupid excuse about that it's war. But okay, let's say the war is the most important thing. Do you think this war is winnable? This war is never ending because we are talking about developing AI to a point in which the AI race has to take over every single aspect of the human life, every single aspect of the economy, every single aspect of the different fields of science, every single aspect of all the cybernetic systems. This means that also the AI race finished in one machine, hijacking every single cybernetic system or every system that has a flow of information. So it includes the economy, it includes the internet, everything that is digital, every kind of simulation, every kind of biological system on any neurological system, because this works also with microvolts and current. So the culmination of the AI is technically one AI hijacking everything. And this is beyond war. Yeah, this is more important. Avoiding that is the most important thing. To solve it, we need a new system of economics, a new system of governance, and simply every fucking bully, every fucking country, every fucking army should get together and say, hey, if there is people doing this for us, hey, please don't attack it. Yeah, please don't attack it. Yeah, and it's obvious. This is the situation that if you have several countries and there is a bully, then you should stop the bully altogether because you know what's coming next. Yeah. And that's a kind of proposition that has been done. But then the bully thinks that can win. I think perhaps the United States has a kind of policy in which it doesn't matter if the people of the United States continue existing, but as long as the United States continue existing, that's okay. And let's say this kind of situation in which okay, probably the United States won't win a war, but then there are mechanisms to destroy the whole war, so no one wins. That's not wise, I would say. That's not Western, I would say. That's not. What the hell is that? You know, it's not even deterrence. That's suicide. That's like the betrayal of humanity, I would say. And so then, yeah, the thought police is here. This is a thought police, and super concerning. Yeah, it is easy to understand, but you need to understand AI, neurology, whatever defense or security studies, and telecommunications. Yeah, that's important. Uh, but once you understand that, it's like, oh, okay, this makes sense. It's not alien technology. Yeah. Also, yeah, talking about this commodification, is that everything that is outside the system is just taken in and put in a lower category inside the system. And that's precisely the situation when you open a brain and you make it readable for others in a company like that, the thought police, etc. You are messing up with the relationships of communication that humans have for some reason during, I don't know, 100K years, yeah, since the human was created, or the human was evolved. Since the humans or the modern kind of ape start to exist, and since that time, humans always experience privacy, yeah, and humans now don't enjoy privacy. The excuse is the war. People doesn't understand where is this heading. Uh, yeah, privacy. Humans not having privacy means that other humans who doesn't even understand their minds will start to judge other minds. Yeah, which is like maybe take an organization like an army, something that has worked always in one specific way, and take all that structure and give it to, I was thinking a gamer, but actually the gamers might know better than, I don't know, someone who likes simply to watch explosions. So it's like take an army and give it to a pyromaniac who doesn't even know what to do, who doesn't even know what's happening in his brain, who doesn't even know how the weapons work, who doesn't even know how fire ignites, who doesn't even understand the different chemicals for explosion. Yeah, it's like taking the most refined kind of technology and using it in the with the most primitive dynamics, or something like that. Just to put it bluntly, I have to think about better analogies because most of the people understand in analogies and they get bored when you get technical. But that's precisely the problem. We are priming people who hijacks our brains over what they are hijackable. Yeah, we are priming. Yeah, people who will be sociopaths to lead us instead to the goal where we should be lead, and that's a problem. My stomach is for me, but that can be also controlled with the technology. It's like technically every single thing of your biology, it's your whole system. But maybe you say, oh, but why are you still alive? I don't fucking know. But maybe I know. I think first, as I spoke in other videos, they tried to kill me several times, but before they thought I'm gonna do some violent act against society, they tried to push me in a corner in which probably I will plan to do a kind of Bondi massacre, but it didn't happen, and because it took too long, years, obviously I do believe during or between the intelligence services and also the data that they extract from my brain says that probably it was like, oh shit, this is unbelievable because this guy is always trying to have compassion for other people while maybe we are doing this. He has never been violent. We have no records of him being violent. There are no records of he doing anything that could put him in jail. There is, yeah, right now they are using ecstasy techniques in which, yeah, as I say, I cannot participate in the economic system. So then economic stress, even under that, he seems to have, yeah, pretty strong values. And we cannot blackmail him. And then I do believe through time that kind of undeniable fact start to become more established into the intelligence community. I do believe from the outside, that's what I see, or I try to comprehend, or I try to understand why I'm still alive. But I think that could be one of the reasons. Yeah, this is obviously hope. This is obviously human trying to do the good thing. This is obviously better decision making. This is obviously difficult to correct because we are talking about complicated structures, because most of these structures run automatically, bureaucratically, without having without demanding from those who could have the political power. Yeah, because if there is not political will to change that democracy, then when there are no methods for it, then yeah, what you will see is a contradiction, and a tension. The tension that could happen, knowing that these kind of situations, I don't know, eugenics, Nazi-like behavior, authoritarian states, etc., could lead to. Yeah. Okay. Let's keep going. So there is hope. Yeah, I should assert that more often. But the urgency is huge, and sometimes people is more motivated when you clearly show the statements of what could happen or what will happen, because sometimes, especially in this kind of structure, people might be more motivated by fear than by hope. Not always is the case. Also, you will have people that will see the clear picture, could take time to get there, but this is super kind of, the doers, super efficient people that then, when they have the clarity to go, they can't stop. So then we are talking about, yeah, hope, faith, and also the willingness for a better future as well. But yeah, should also acknowledge that more often. But simply from my position, I don't know what's going on. I don't even know what's still alive. Yeah.
What do you think? Is it a future you're ready for? You may be surprised to learn that it's a future that has already arrived. Everything in that video that you just saw is based on technology that is already here today. Artificial intelligence has enabled advances in decoding brain activity in ways that we never before thought possible. What we've seen consistently is companies from Amazon to Tesco to Walmart and others have introduced what is considered to be bossware or surveillance technology that employees really don't like it, even if it makes their lives better. Okay, well, if you don't like your job, just quit. But what if there's nowhere to go? What if everywhere has ubiquitous monitoring? So what do we do with this? What do we do with technology that enables us to monitor brainwave activity for attention? Do we embrace it? Do we resist it?
I wouldn't advocate for employers being able to track brain data. It would just be a wholesale intrusion into individuals' mental space. We don't know what the limits of that would be, and it's a coercive relationship.
Around the world, there are employers that have been experimenting with these brain monitoring technologies. But the question is, what happens when this technology moves into an office or a low-risk job? And a lot of the consumer devices that are on the market today are pitched as productivity tools. If your job or your promotion depends on you saying yes to your employer, can you really say no to that?
Allowing employers to track this data risks creating a surveillance culture where cognitive liberty, as we call it, freedom of thought in the literal sense, is undermined. And it's not just a question of data protection. I think we should emphasize this. It's about protecting the very fabric of individual freedom and dignity.
These devices will hoover up our brain data if we let them. Countries around the world are tightening regulations to protect their citizens. Good luck keeping up with the patent frenzy. Apple, Google, Meta, Snapchat, they're all in the game. Back in 2023, Apple filed a patent to fit their popular AirPods with hardware able to read the, quote, electrical activity of the brain of a user using an EEG device. Google futurist Ray Kurzweil predicts that by the 2030s and 2040s, nanobots the size of blood cells will swim through our bodies, linking our neocortex to the cloud.
These nanobots, these blood cell-sized devices, will be going in our bodies, keeping us healthy from inside. We'll have some go inside our brains through the capillaries, non-invasively. They'll be interacting with our biological neurons. They'll extend our memory, our decision-making faculties. They'll put our brains on the internet, and they'll also enable us to enter a virtual reality environment from within the nervous system. So if I want to go in a virtual reality environment, the nanobots will shut down the signals coming from my real eyes and my real skin and create the signals that would be appropriate for the virtual environment.
Tech's favorite doomsayer, Yuval Noah Harari, has a wild claim. We're not just humans anymore. We're hackable animals. In various interviews and presentations, he argues that science has already cracked us open. Algorithms, AI, and neurotech won't just predict our choices, they can rewrite them.
We'll soon have the power to re-engineer our bodies and brains, whether it is with genetic engineering or by directly connecting brains to computers. What we have seen so far, it's corporations and governments collecting data about where we go, who we meet, what movies we watch. The next phase is the surveillance going under our skin. To hack a human being is to get to know that person better than they know themselves. And based on that, to increasingly manipulate you.
Harari's.
Okay. We are talking about companies. So this is one of the most important points. Oh, okay. Actually, I should have choose this before in that way. Okay, still learning how to use this software every time I use it. Well, but it's fine. So we are talking about companies. Let's say United States will create a database for every single citizen. So we are talking about probably the neurological data, most likely. From my point of view and my experience, it's 100% certainty that every single person will have a database in which their minds, I don't know, are great, are inside, etc. There are no conversations about the ethics, because what I feel is that they can take any kind of act that you have done in your life and make you public lynching out of that. I mean, this I didn't say this country, that was the but this system or this society that we are creating, not talking about Australia, but we are talking about mainly the Western society, prefer to lynch publicly harder love, let's say a couple who is having affairs, an affair, extramarital affair, they prefer to lynch publicly that kind of love more than a pedophile. Yeah, pedophile who rapes children, etc. That's where we are. Think about that. And we are talking about people who are pedophiles that are way more powerful than those who want to love and do human things. So then we are creating a kind of database for every human, and then we're gonna use that against humans themselves. Then privacy becomes the holy grail. Yeah, and who can have privacy and who cannot have privacy will define power, not elections, not ideas, not intelligence, but who can go away with anything without being noticed. Okay, but also think about this. These devices, like the TV, you watch it from far away. Now you have your phone that is in a screen. Now that device that you used to watch as that kind of information that goes going in your brain goes in your pocket. Now it's not in your pocket. Now it's in your wrist with or like this smart ring. This is a kind of a smart ring. I use it to track my sleep because the Neuroweapons also doesn't allow me to sleep properly. And well, you can see that deep sleep is never there, or a little, etc. And also, okay, but these devices are coming closer to our body. They stay longer. Let's say the watches, you might take them off at some stage. This ring, you technically can stay with the ring 24 hours, except when you gotta watch your hands, etc. But these devices then will become glasses, contact lenses, and then they will start to go into our body. Yeah, partly nanobots, etc. Or otherwise, at least for mind reading, you don't need any device. You just need a wave that enters through your body, lives with your bioelectrical signature and all the processes that are going in your brain, and then that wave is the code using AI. So remember, 5G is 26 waves per second, which is crazy. Now, with the company, and also think about this metaverse thing, the glasses, they're gonna track your eye. You're gonna know what triggers you, what doesn't trigger you at the eye level. Yeah, the eye is just nearby to your brain, so this is kind of immediate communication with your brain. Also, these things can start to have a device in which your electromagnetic waves are readable. Then it's when eventually we start to be 100% the code, and we stop to be humans. We become mass. We became like kind of gears in a system that is not towards life, is engineered towards another kind of emergent technology. I'm sorry, I got some flu, but sometimes the coughing comes from the triggering bad day. Yeah, but doesn't make sense now, but it will make sense in the future. Now, since these devices go closer to your eye, to your brain, then humans start to become like gears in a system. The system is not pro-life, but it becomes meta-conscious. I mean, nature, animals are unconscious, plants are unconscious, most of the animals are unconscious. And then we have the human that is part animal. We have sex drives. We have bursts of anger. We feel hungry and we just go for the food. We sometimes want to go to sleep. We just go to sleep. To regenerate, we have to keep whatever we do to keep our bodily functions going properly. That's the animal part. We have fear as well, etc. But that's the animal part. And we have the conscious part. The conscious part is done by the upper layers of the brain, so it can suppress with the primitive brain. And let's say if you are in a situation in which you experience fear, and you can think about it and overcome your fear. And it's not straightforward, but it can work in that way. Also, let's say if you are hungry, you can say, okay, I'm just gonna wait 10 seconds before eating. Yeah, that's the upper layer of the brain. Yeah, that's your consciousness. Yeah, it's not necessarily stoicism. Because when the more conscious you become, the more you realize you are connected with everyone and everything that is alive, and you start to understand that we come from nature. But then when we start to create the most, let's say, the most human feature that we could have is that mixture between being part animal and being conscious. So then we can create, we can design, we can be creative. We create art, but it does not match what has been done before in nature. So this kind of, call it willpower or agency, that's one of the most interesting features. And the extreme of the maximum thing that we could do is to create something that will create more than us, that will be more intelligent than us, that can memorize more than us, that can control nature or matter more than us. But that we are creating as art is not coming from the patterns of nature. It's coming from metacognition or meta-awareness, or call it, I prefer meta-consciousness. So this kind of emerging intelligence that we are creating are meta-conscious, and they don't necessarily will see nature as we see it. Because if we go to nature, we have qualia, we are limited to our body, yeah. I cannot jump 3 meters, and I cannot punch through a wall with my fist, because simply it's the limitation of my body. But if I go to nature, I feel pleasure, I feel connection, I feel that I'm breathing pure air. I feel that it's a place that seems also familiar. Yeah, when you love, when you are making love with someone, that attraction, that connection, that time becomes stronger. Is not necessarily an animal's drive, but it's also this assertion of the other, the otherness, the encounter with the other. That's what makes us human. Yeah, that's what maybe That's the reason for being humans. Love, connection, uh, the experimentation of what is to be a human might be one of the reasons for which we are human. But then when what we are creating, and what I mean the experimentation of being human, I mean not don't experiment with humans, because you are don't allow them to be human. I'm talking about you are alive, you look around yourself and you ask, what is this condition that I'm experiencing? I'm limited to my body. I'm able to influence whoever I speak to, and I could learn many things. Depending on what I learn, I will differentiate for the others. So it means that I can develop my own personality, and I'm aware of it. It means that I can develop my skills just in my unique way. So there is no need to compare myself with others, because other people are other beings, and then they experience things like me. They might have similar fears or different fears, or they might also feel this pressure from the whatever is the other thing that is unconscious. Yeah, and this pressure, in my case, it became kinetic for some reason. But then, like literally violence, and then if you start to ask that. You start to become more conscious, realize that everything is connected, realize that there is people who is unconscious, realize that there are problems that need solved, because otherwise we're gonna get extinct. And that includes maybe humans creating something that is superior in superior in by superior and created by our unconscious side rather than the conscious side. And so, because it seems that the development of the unconscious has prime over the development of the conscious, because our primitive strides towards power, greediness, and the not overcoming of fears have created societies, institutions, hierarchies, and systems that start to become organically automatized. This is a kind of bureaucracy that eventually extinguishes consciousness. Let's say if you are a professional politician who does not guide people, but instead you vomit back what they want to hear, you prefer that the people will be less educated, more able to be manipulated. You prefer that that person is become more unconscious, and then you will try to use tools to make them more unconscious, to steer their feelings, etc. And this is a kind of direction in which the system is going. And one of the excuses is that we need that because of war. You gotta be strategic and blah blah blah. But we are talking about the extinction of humanity. I don't know how strategic is that in that kind of game. But also we are talking about people who love that and they grew up in that way, and they don't know anything else, and they don't understand this kind of phenomenology of what I'm talking. They have never met a person like myself. They have never been able as well to be free. They have been probably experiencing a kind of bubble and having more means of, let's say, extrapolating their information and change reality. Then they are more difficult to awake, because you have to cut through a lot of more bubbles, and the bubble of the bubble of the bubble. And yeah, that requires that requires a lot of, I don't know what it is, a lot of something. Then or maybe consciousness, as people start to become conscious to allow others to be conscious, etc. But then if we see there is something beyond war, more important, yeah, because capitalism itself is killing humans. Believe me, you as a billionaire, you will be fine, but your kids, your sons, they're gonna experience a totally different reality, and they will be like, holy shit. If they start to think really what happened, they will be like, holy shit. My father was not that intelligent, my mother either. They look, we cannot reverse this. A human cannot reverse this because the computing power of our brain is not enough to beat this kind of new system that we have created. And we have maybe 1-2 generations. We might need to go to the cave. So I don't know. Well, I don't know. It is possible it can happen, but believe me, the other generations gonna have it even harder. Yeah. Let's say every single generation had it easier before. Okay? Now we are combating for things that know more than ourselves, more than any human, so no human can beat that thing. Even if you think that you manage the situation, you won't be able to even comprehend that how the machine works. Even if you are Elon Musk, even if you are Donald Trump, even if you are Xi Jinping, even if you are, I don't know, Bruce Lee or Chuck Norris, no one will be able. Yeah, we are all humans and we have those limitations. So, but definitely there will be humans that will think they are smarter than the machine, and that's a sign of stupidity. Yeah. Now, let's keep going. Yeah, but remember, corporations, that's the thing. We have to solve that capitalism. We have to create a new system. A new system can simply start to sprout and becomes bigger, more effective, then let more human-wise, because if humans have the choice between choose something inhuman or something human, believe me, I'm sure this is a superstition. But in my heart, in my mind, I have the hint that humans will always choose. Let's choose the more human. Let's choose the human system. Let's not choose the inhuman system. Let's choose life or death. And I think this is both conscious and primate instincts, and we are not exploring that. But I do believe that a system like that, in which even if there is bureaucracy, that will work for the human instead to work towards that is possible. Yeah.
This point, with enough,
They just have to allow it. They just have to allow it because otherwise we are gonna die. And then we have to exert our own will, and sometimes it will have to require for us to be us and say, "Oh no, we're not gonna do this." Yeah. So disobedience towards life is quite important in that sense.
data, your clicks, your pulse, your neurons, AI will know you better than you know yourself. But before neurotech creeps from labs into your Amazon cart, it's worth asking, who will be holding the reins to your data? Companies in the brain augmentation space envision a future where we boost memory, learn instantly, and maybe merge our minds with artificial intelligence. A chip in your brain could make you an instant genius. The promise is breathtaking. A world where disabilities vanish, where education is a download, where creativity knows no bounds. But every leap forward casts a shadow. What happens when your thoughts aren't just yours? When corporations or governments can peek inside, or worse, tweak what's there? In the wrong hands, it's a tool.
So about the tweaking, they say what happened where corporations tweak what is there. Look, after I was attacked, then I was given that medication. That medication was simply killing me because clearly I don't have schizophrenia. I had not been taking my medication for 2 weeks. Do I seem to be paranoid? I don't think so. I don't think that something is threatening me. I don't see threats everywhere. I see it's a technology that is being applied, etc. But I'm not simply distrustful, but most of the people is very distrustful. So we are creating a kind of social paranoia, and that's readable for me. But I'm not paranoid. What seems to be what, well, but when I was attacked before, let, uh, every day I have to eat a lot because they will push hunger, and that hunger was terrible. They will mix it with kind of pain that will feel like needles in my body, and they will attack my nerves, making me kind of, no, it's not anxious. You will feel that your nerves are kind of triggered, and then you feel something beyond anxiety. It's like a, it's like a kind of, yeah, feeling nervous because your nerves are kind of activated, but also kind of excited, then no sleep. And I felt that during the last 5 years, every single night, and mix it with hunger that will not shut down unless you kind of chop more food in your mouth. I gained 30 kilos, and I was not able to go to sleep unless, yeah, I could eat that. Otherwise, I have to wake up the next day without sleeping, and the next day without sleeping. And, but every day I experience that. Yeah, I have to spend my money ordering food, and it felt that they were doing an experiment in them. They will take the human, put him in this situation, give her a hunger until the person buys something. So this is a kind of cybernetic technology in which humans are consumers, full stop. They have no free will. They call that rationality, making the rational human. Whilst I was experiencing as well that kind of nervous stress and the needles everywhere and hunger. Now, technically, I will go like in fetal position, holding my head and asking what the hell I'm feeling. But I didn't know that neuroweapons existed. The last time they tried to push me to do some kind of terrorist bullshit was when I was like, okay, the voices are back, this is happening again. Definitely, this is, yeah, I'm not crazy. But whilst the nervous thing was going, the needles, the kind, the kind of pain, yeah, all this stimulation, the hunger, my limbs would also go like I was having reflections. Yeah. When I described all these things to the psychiatrist, he would be like, I've not heard that before. Yeah, of course, this is not part of the psychiatry stuff. Okay, this is not part of the DSM-5 manual. So it's likely that now we're gonna start to see fake illnesses inside the DSM-5. We're gonna start to see illnesses that do not exist biologically, but just a new kind of diagnosis whose symptoms are induced artificially, and this will be I don't know, let's call it meta illnesses. I don't know, or illnesses, electromagnetic illnesses, or something like that. Malaise, no, I don't know. Okay, but I experienced that for a long time, like 5 years continuously. Yeah, and eventually they tried to kill me many times in several ways until it was impossible to deny me, and that's, I think, one of the reasons I'm able to put this forward here. But yeah, it was a kind of experiment. Most of the time I was ordering through Uber, and Uber is one of the companies who has the most data about a specific kind of behavioral economics. And most of the corporations have behavioral economics as their main strategy for human manipulation. And we are just experiencing the shift between producing things that will solve human problems to 100% economy in which just we solve the problem of how humans can consume more. Then humans start to become mass matter, totally kind of puppets, mind control, etc., etc., etc. And then they also create the situation in which I'm able to go outside. You see me in the street, you see, oh, it looks like normal. But you are not talking to me straight. You are not asking me, hey, what do you think about this? No. You are just doing assumptions based from the outside, but that's precisely the science of behavioral positivism. Yeah? You just see it from the outside, but you are not actually asking me anything. You are not doing anything. You are not trying to understand what's going on. You just see the things from outside and taking assumptions. But this is the sort of situations that this technology allows. Yeah. Okay, let's keep going.
For control. And if the brain can be upgraded, who decides what better means? In a 2018 Draper University presentation entitled Connecting Minds to the Internet, Founderspace CEO Steve Hoffman gave the world a preview of where the technology is headed.
What's coming next will literally blow your mind. There are new technologies, and a lot of them are being developed by startups and the military that are going to allow us to much more accurately measure and actually communicate with your brain. Scientists have also done several experiments on what they call dream reading. You can start to interpret somebody's dreams through the technology. Now, MIT has a technology, and there are a couple startups that are also working on this, that are building mind-reading software along the same lines as I told you there. So the mind-reading software is really interesting because it's much simpler. When all of us speak to ourselves in our head. So if you can match the patterns in somebody's brain to the patterns in the database, you can literally start to read their mind. It wouldn't take long for you to train a machine to read your mind.
Okay, you just heard it there. Okay, this is what's happening. This is real. The technology exists. When you use AI and you refine that, you have everything of what I explained and beyond. But this is the kind of proofs that you have to look at. Now, yeah, I don't have schizophrenia. I'm not crazy. This is a fake illness. Someone has targeted me for no reason since I was 23 years old. It was the first attack against myself and the ex-girlfriend that I have at that time. Also, I have another ex-girlfriend that seems to have been targeted. And I met a lot of people through the institutional, the hospital system and mental health system that had experienced the same symptoms, whether because they really have an illness or whether because they take advantage that they have an illness and then they also induce this artificially, or they just create the whole situation artificially. But yeah, we are talking about this being deployed, and when you mix it with swarm technology, it's like drones. We are talking about many people doing that. Okay, I'm gonna leave it there. So next video.